Hey everybody, welcome to Zero Mile ADV, a true beginner's guide to adventure motorcycling from a true beginner's perspective. Well, the cat's out of the bag, and so we officially have to talk about it because a lot of you have commented and asked, and I wondered how long it was going to take, but it didn't take very long. I think like 2 videos, and everybody's been asking about it. So, with that being said, let's talk about the Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro Aragon edition. So a lot of you know still have 2 motorcycles. At the time, if we go back a little bit in my story about how I came to acquire this bike, I had the Ducati Multistrada V4 Rally edition, and I have a 2023 Harley-Davidson Road King Special. Now, what I had found is that having the 2 bikes, there essentially was too much overlap, for lack of a better term. So if I was going to cruise around town, go to the gym, go do highway miles, anything that didn't involve dirt, I was grabbing the keys for the Harley more than the Ducati. The Ducati, amazing in the corners, amazing on the street. The Harley also really good and decent, actually not as good as the Ducati, I will say that much, but still really good in the corners and a really great bike. If you've never ridden a Harley-Davidson Touring Edition, like the M8 Touring model, it has a really planted feeling on the highway that you just can't compare to another bike. And actually, especially with the Road King, I wouldn't say so much with the Road Glide or the Street Glide, that extra fairing weight, even though they're essentially the same bikes, it changes the dynamic, the feeling of the bike. The Road King for me just feels really agile, but yet still really planted and comfortable on the highway. So that being said, I was riding the Harley and grabbing the keys for the Harley more than I was the Ducati. So I felt that there was just too much overlap. The Ducati is a good off-road bike. If you saw my video about when I first purchased it, I do feel that that bike with the longer suspension and the Skyhook does perform better than the Super Adventure S on dirt roads and like fire roads like where I'm at now. However, it's still not that great when it comes to the off-road side of things. So there is still very more road biased. Amazing road bike actually. And I think if I were to sell the Harley, I probably would consider getting the Ducati Multistrada V4 RS. If you haven't seen that bike that came out, it actually has the Ducati Dismo engine that's in the Panigale V4 S, and looks like a super amazing bike. It looks super fun. I would really love to ride one day. But if I was going to sell the Harley, I probably would get that bike because it would still be super comfortable and it would be amazing in the corners. You could even take that bike to the track. So with that being said, I was like, you have to look at the market and how easy is it going to be to offload a big bike, and are you going to lose your insert bad word there. So at the time, Ducati's still, the Rally version still wasn't readily available on the market. They were still hard to find. There were none here on the western slope of Colorado, and there weren't any in the Front Range. And actually they are still far and few between in kind of the surrounding Utah, Nevada areas. So I put it on the market and I started getting a lot of interest. And actually I had a dealership that basically was willing to come pick it up, overnight me a check, the whole deal. They made it super easy. A dealer out of Vegas, and so I ended up selling it to them. And then I was left with just one bike, which was fine because it was wintertime. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but as things started getting warmer and I was riding more, I was like, well, I do have an itch for dirt. I do love riding on the dirt, and as I've mentioned, I'm not very good at it, but as I get more confidence on the dirt, I wanted another adventure bike to be able to go explore and do some dirt roads, and I would love to do the Colorado BDR. So then I started getting on the market and looking to see what my options were and what my availability was. So now let's talk about what other bikes I considered and how I ended up with this one instead. Okay, so quick side rant. It really has nothing to do about motorcycles, but it does in some way, because I think it's important about how you can afford motorcycles. And if I have to say anything, another quick backstory about me. I grew up dirt poor. I grew up with not a lot. My parents were riddled with debt. Honestly, I'm not sure how they did it, to be honest with you. I didn't have my own bedroom, I think, until I was like starting to go into high school. And at that point it was, my parents were thinking, well, with you going into high school, it's probably not a good idea that you have to share a room with your sister anymore. And so my parents actually moved into the living room so that my sister and I could have our own bedrooms. So yeah, I grew up kind of in the backwoods of like Coal Creek Canyon, if you know where that is in Colorado, not really anything close. Yeah, so as I started working and trying to figure out, like, I didn't want to live like that anymore. You know, I had goals of like, how can I get out of these things? And having had a lot of jobs, I can tell you that the best decision you can make in your life is to start your own business. And it's not easy. You have to go 100% in on it, and it takes three things. And I think if you focus on these three things, hopefully you will also be able to afford motorcycles and be able to play with motorcycles and do all the things you want as well. I think it's people, purpose, and profits. And if you focus on those three things in that order, I think you too can do it. And I am a testament to that. I also, because I think my father-in-law watches these videos, if you're lucky enough to have amazing in-laws that will allow you to pretty much sell everything you own and move you and your wife, their daughter, into their basement for almost 2 years or 2 years so that you can start your own business, also a huge benefit. So having good supportive people around you I think is also crucial, but you have to be willing to take the gamble. For years, I never jumped 2 feet in. I always dabbled with side businesses while I worked another full-time job, and I can tell you it wasn't until I risked everything that it truly paid off. But it is also really, really important that you focus on people. You need amazing people around you to do amazing things and to take care of your customers, who are the other people that are going to pay you. And if you focus on those things and you put them first and you solve problems for people and you put people first, it is truly possible. You can do it. So that is my rant. And hopefully if you're young out there and you're thinking about it, as somebody who spent a god-awful amount of money to go to get my bachelor's degree in information technology, and then I spent a god-awful amount of money to go to law school, and I don't practice law. I now own a technology company. If you're out there thinking about it and you're judging if you should spend a lot of money on college and you should start your own business, I would say take the risk, start your own business, do your own thing, put people first, find the purpose of why you're doing it, and then the money will come. So that is my quick side rant. I hope it helps to understand my position. And I didn't come from money, so it's not like, you know, all these toys that I get to enjoy now. I just, you know, was born into a fortunate situation. I had to work for it all. So now let's get back to the bikes. Okay, so also if you've made it this far and you've gotten through my rants and you've heard all my first world problems, please like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Even if you're a troll. I love the troll comments actually, and I've gotten one really, really good one the other day, so maybe I'll address that soon. Please leave a comment below. Let's get into the bike. So when I was considering other bikes, I knew I wanted something more off-road focused, ideally with a 21-inch front wheel. The Super Adventure S and the Ducati both have 19-inch front wheels. And if you mountain bike, like I love to mountain bike, there's a reason that the 29er mountain bike scene just kind of dominated, and that's pretty much all you can buy now. There are still a few 27.5-inch mountain bikes. It's because it's like a monster truck, right? Like it just bowls over things better. So I knew I wanted a 21-inch front wheel. However, there was one bike I really considered that did have a 19-inch front wheel, because it is kind of the godfather to adventure bikes, and it seems to do everything really, really well. And so as I looked for something that was going to give me more confidence and help me rip and have a lot of fun off-road, I did consider, and I rode a couple BMW 1250 GSs. So I rode one that's the full-on adventure version with the bigger tank and the sport suspension, and honestly, it was just this kind of the same problem as the Ducati. It was really big, felt really bulky, and I didn't, you know, I took it down a dirt road. Because I was demoing it, you can't really do serious off-road. And so I still had just didn't have that, like, okay, it's ready to really tackle dirt roads and rip and have a lot of fun on. Now, with that being said, also, I'm not looking to do the gnarliest trails. Like, I'm not looking to go out to Moab and ride high massa back on my adventure bike, like the KTM rider, whatever his name, Chris Birch, I think. If you haven't seen that guy, what he rode, Cliffhanger, I think is what they call it, but it's like on the mountain bike trail, it's high massa. If you haven't seen him ride that on the KTM 890R, like, it is wild. You should check it out. But that's not my goal. I have no desire to do that. I want to go out to dirt roads, rip, have fun, and just enjoy the day. So I knew I wanted something with a 20-inch front tire. So I looked at the BMW, as you talked about. Then I also looked at the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. And a lot of you saw my other video about why I chose the S over the R. But now that I wanted something where the suspension was really ready to just like smooth out the fire roads and kind of these roughs, I guess these are kind of more fire roads, I knew with that big motor, like it would feel really good on the highway. So I was really, really close to actually getting the Super Adventure R. And there's one here locally where a guy had built it up, and then it was just too much for him. So it was actually a pretty good deal. And I really, really considered that bike. And actually, as I went back and I rode the KTM, the R, I hadn't ridden this yet. And I was like, I was really close to pulling the trigger on the R because I got on it and it felt at home. That low center of gravity, I mean, it was a little rough on the highway. Like the S already is a little bit lively. It's very buzzy. It like feels like it wants to kill you on the highway. Take that, add some knobbies to it, a 21-inch front wheel. I mean, the R kind of amplifies all of that. But I knew that for me, that thing, I could crush a lot of miles on it. And once I hit a dirt road, like I could just rip and have fun. And that's really what I was looking for. Especially because it's going to take hours, you know, a lot of times to get somewhere to go do a cool ride. And I'll get into that point a little bit further. So actually leaving the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R, I went over to our local Triumph dealer. And actually, I gotta say, I think I mentioned this before, but Everett and the All Terrain Motorsports guys here on the Western Slope in Grand Junction, Colorado are truly amazing. If you are ever out here, those guys are awesome. I mean, they pretty much let me ride anything I want. They're super supportive in your buying process. Really, really great team over there. I can't speak highly enough of them. So anyways, they had just one Tiger 900 Rally Edition, and they also had a Tiger 1200. And so I considered both, but again, the Tiger 1200, tall, really heavy bike, I considered it, but it just, again, it felt similar to the Ducati in a lot of ways, and I knew that it would be a lot better on the road. And once I got on this bike and I started riding this around, it was kind of the perfect balance of what I was looking for. So it felt like it was ready to rip down a dirt road, like it felt like it was ready to hit the dirt and rip, like the KTM, the R, and it was still comfortable. So it kind of had this good blend, because with most adventure bikes, you're going to spend a lot of time on the highway, especially out here. Like if you want to go do the Alpine loop, which is a cool trail, you know, it's a cool loop. It's from, like, if you're in Denver, it's going to take you 3 hours to get there. And then, you know, you got to do the loop and ride back. So there's still a lot of highway time. So I still wanted a lot of the creature comforts, but I wanted the more off-road focused ability. So let's get into that piece next, why I think the Tiger 900 Rally Pro kind of blends that good on-road touring versus like off-road ready. Okay, so let's talk about why I think this bike is kind of a good amalgamation of everything. Actually, if you haven't seen Big Rock Moto's video, I watched his video on the Tiger 900 Rally Pro. He also made a comment, and this was a year ago, I don't know how he feels about today, but he said if he couldn't have multiple bikes and he only had to have one bike, especially for the type of riding he likes to do, this would probably be it. Now I don't know, it seems like he's far more skilled and far more advanced than I am off-road, and he seemed to really like this bike. So with that being said, the Aragon edition, how this one is different from the Rally Pro is it comes with the upper crash bar, these fog lights, and this one also came with a TourTech skid plate on the bottom and more off-road focused tires. I also have the Triumph panniers, a little bit smaller than definitely smaller than the Ducati panniers, but still a decent amount of space. Heated seat and heated grips. So, but fully manual Showa suspension on this bike. So this bike, unlike I think the GT Pro might come with the Showa. I'm not sure if it has the electronic suspension. Again, the 1200 has the electronic suspension and not the manual Showa suspension. And it seems like if you look at the R has fully manual WP suspension on it for the KTM. And so this kind of has pretty much everything. It is actually really comfortable on the road. Riding it for, compared to like the 890R or like the Norden 900, I feel this one, however this body is designed, probably gives you the best wind protection of any middleweight, of the kind of the middleweight adventure bikes. Now, I did want to check out the Honda Africa Twin, but Honda, get your act together because you can't find those bikes anywhere. So I still haven't ridden an Africa Twin. I have a friend who has an Africa Twin and he offered to let me ride his, but we'll see, if you're like a lot of people, it's kind of scary riding other people's bikes because you don't want to drop it. Yeah, so I can't compare this to the Africa Twin because there just wasn't any for me to check out. But price-wise, this bike pretty much has the full kit and caboodle. Pretty much has everything. I even have the Aero exhaust on here, and it still was cheaper than kind of the baseline R. So with the 1290R, I knew I was going to want to get saddlebags or panniers, because I couldn't, you know, the Ducati ones are factory OEM, I couldn't keep those. And I was going to have to add heated grips, heated seat, because those small creature comforts, if it's cold and you've got a 2-hour ride home, can make a big difference. On a big adventure ride I did last summer, you know, it started to get late, and even though it was midsummer and it gets hot out here in the desert, coming home at night, it was still getting cold, and then it started to rain. And having the heated grips and the heated seats, those 2 points can really make a difference. May not seem like it, but at least for me, in kind of those uncomfortable conditions, it can make a big difference. And this bike has both of those. So I just feel that with all of the nice features of this bike, it just kind of blends a good amount of touring comfort and ready to go off-road and make up for a lot of my shortcomings. Because I think that's another thing, is I am not good at riding off-road. I'm still learning. If you haven't seen, I just did a video on like the 3 things that I've been doing to help me get better off-road, even on dirt roads and gravel roads. And so I need a bike that's going to kind of make up for a lot of my lack of ability. And I feel this bike does that. I will also say that I do not regret getting a 1200cc for my first bike. I'll do another video on why, even now after having a middleweight adventure bike, why I would probably still go with the 1200, the 1290 first over this bike or any other bike. So that might be a little controversial, maybe fun. Hopefully we get some more troll comments. I really enjoy those. So with that being said, what do you think? What do you think of the Tiger 900 Rally Pro? Do you think it was a good choice? Are you interested in any other bikes? Are there any other bikes I should ride, check out? Leave me a comment below. Again, if you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. And until next time, stay safe out there.